Now, as much excitement as I have for Final Fantasy 16, there's even more for Final Fantasy 7R. I would far rather, and I think both games are going to be good. But if there was a poll somebody had ran on Twitter, I want to say a couple months ago now. It's been a while. What would you rather have? Would you rather have Final Fantasy 16 be good, or would you rather have Final Fantasy Rebirth be good? And I'd rather have Rebirth be good because Final Fantasy 7 we already know was one of the best on the top RPGs of all time. And I'm counting all RPGs together. JRPG, ARPG, WRPG, whatever RPG all of them. Top 10. It's very hard, and I'm going from just not only the longevity that the series has, but also just the fact that even like, just for example, the remake quite possibly like is the best remake of all time. It took the original story and fragmented it. It fragmented it into a way where, oh, there's gonna be some spoilers here, y'all. This is some Final Fantasy 7 theory stuff. So if you haven't played the remake, this is the time that you might want to leave the room. Put the kids. I'll give you a moment. Put the kids to sleep and then come on back now, baby. So after the trailer dropped, I was working, so I didn't get a chance to see the full Summer Game Fest. I had to actually, go back and catch up on it, but I did get a chance to come in right on, it was a blessing, right at the end, literally almost maybe 15, 20 minutes before, maybe 15, I might be giving it too much leeway, before Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth dropped. And it was such a bombshell that this is what I've been waiting for. The only thing I can say that I was so excited, I was pacing when I seen it. I was so excited I was pacing, and I try not to get overly hyped about games. Like, I didn't really get overly hyped about 7, the remake, because I was scared. It's been so, it's sad to say, you don't want to be, you want to be even keel. At least that's how I want to be. I don't want to be too up. I don't want to be too down, because if I get too hyped, I'm gonna have my feelings hurt. Then if I'm too low, then what's going to happen is my expectations will be slightly dampened. So again, like, I'm trying to do that with Final Fantasy 16. Just go in with an open mind. I've watched the trailer so many times on the Rebirth that it's really bringing up the old mysteries in Final Fantasy 7R, just Final Fantasy Remake, and just Final Fantasy 7 whole multiverse timelines theory, which is, there was a point in the English version of the trailer where Tifa, when she's in her cowboy outfit, she runs up to Sephiroth and is screaming and hollering about how Sephiroth, he had killed her father, and that he, burnt her whole town down. And that is when he sliced her, which they never showed in her adult face. He hit her. Does she still have that cut, or does, she healed up? But that was the Masamune. That's a 6-foot blade. It's like 5'11" without the hilt. That's a long ass sword. That was bigger than her body. And to hit her like that, even though he did it casually. But while he was talking to her, he said some very ominous, strange things that, myself and a few friends and people, we kept going back to. And it was like, or what he said was, that I killed her, then who is she? And the way he said it at first, when I first couple of times I heard it, I was kind of like I let it pass, but then, you know, when you go back and you listen to it again, he said it almost in the form of a question. So then what I did is I turned on the captions, and I turned on the captions to see if it was a question mark in the captions to see if he was asking a question, because the question he was posed to, or one of the theories that I had, is because if Zack lived in one of the timelines that we've seen at the end of the game, if he lives in one of the timelines, then that means that it's, you know, it's an equivalent exchange. Aerith might not die in that timeline, but then that means Tifa might die in this timeline. That's been one of my theories since this whole thing started. And then we remember that some of the original people that was there from Final Fantasy, it wasn't Hinabaru, but it was I forgot somebody else, who else it was. Forgive me, I don't have my Geek facts in front of me at the moment, but some of the other head honchos and stuff that were there told the people who were writing the new game or doing the new one, like, just scratch it, do everything. You know, I'll have to find an article for that too, but y'all can Google this. This is it's like an interview when the game happened. The new heads wanted to keep the purity of the old story when they were originally doing Final Fantasy VII Remake, but the old heads basically were like, y'all just do your own kind of story. And what it feels like we have is a mixture of both types, if that makes sense, because we might have a timeline where it sticks to the traditional things that actually happened in Final Fantasy VII that came out in 1997. And then with Zack living, and then the tornado that ate up Midgar, because that didn't happen on the original Final Fantasy VII. And then I was watching Maximilian's video a while back, and he was talking about, and I did a thing, and you know this, and I did a video about this, but I didn't even put two and two together at that time until he said it. But the scenes don't completely mash up, and he questioned it. He goes, well, why don't they mesh up? That's intentional. And the scenes don't mesh up. Like, I put the video is called The First Good 5 Minutes of Final Fantasy, and a Final Fantasy VII in the comparison. And it's certain scenes that change, like the close-up of Aerith's face, and then that could even be, now that you even think about it, what if they played off of the Aerith theme? Because if you remember, out here in America, for those who play, because I just started calling her Aerith, we knew that her original name was Aerith, Aerith, but in the West, we called her Aeris, which was Aeris. What if Aeris dies and Aerith lived? Tifa dies, or is some kind of equivalent exchange since Zack lived? You know, something has to give. What if we see that at the end of the, you know, that Advent Children, look, I got excited. The Advent Children, you know how we see that church scene at Advent Children. I didn't really like Children because it didn't feel like it did anything. I didn't really like it. It just felt like it was 2 years later in the story, but it felt like it did not nothing really moved. Cloud was still the same moody Mako crackhead that he was on Final Fantasy VII. After him and Tifa was wrestling underneath the damn ship, they living together, and they ain't just playing Pinochle. They ain't just playing Chocobo. They living together, you know. So, and he's still thirsting over and hurting over his dead homie's girl. So that might have something to tie into it as well. Maybe that's a shard, or like, you know, what do they call the people have been calling the plot ghost? One of the things that Maximilian was talking about, and other things that, you know, you can look at and note, not everything is exactly the same. Like Jessie living, which she's popular. We like Jessie. Wedge, no, is Wedge living? Biggs is living. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. Biggs is living. I think so. A lot of things changed. And then I was watching a video when somebody mentioned about Aerith, how she said, how did she know who Marlene was? And then as we see from the trailer, even though they probably just did the voice over Tifa and Aerith talking, but Tifa was asking Aerith where did she think Cloud was. And I really do like, just in the whole series of the, that Tifa, they gave each character more depth. Like Tifa really acting like somebody woman. She really questioned this dude. She really was respectful to him too. She was real ladylike. She was like, okay, I'm not going to embarrass you out here in front of Biggs and Wedge, but I am going to pull you to the side, bruh. Where was you at 5 years ago? Because we ain't talked about it. You just popped up with a big ass sword, which also we can see where these two stories, because in one timeline, the 97 Final Fantasy, the Buster Sword that's the one I like, the original OG Buster Sword. And then there's the one that was it Ansel had, right, from Crisis Core. So let me bring up this list here, which is in between, is saying Crisis Core and Final Fantasy 7 is where the After Future, where I'm thinking where they were saying that Aerith either went back through the live stream or Sephiroth have went back through the live stream. It's really no concrete. All these are theories, so it's really no concrete evidence on what exactly happened and how we got to this point. But it is kind of fun to, wiki how these kind of theories. And I did do the air quotes when I said that. So 7 years ago, Crisis Core happened on this timeline as well. And then Final Fantasy Remake happened. But from the events with Final Fantasy Remake, where it looks like where the plot ghosts happen and everything, they cut the Avid Children didn't exist, and neither did Dirge of Cerberus. Those on this timeline are considered canon, and the new timeline happens where it seems like where we're seeing from the end of Intergrade, where the whole party is outside and they're getting ready to go to the city of Calm. And then it's saying that there's an unknown journey on that timeline, and at the end of it, they got Sephiroth. And then on one from the Crisis Core alternate timeline is the one that, at the same time, so it's 3 timelines on together, but this one actually has 4. The alternate timeline, Zack is still alive. Now I know that's a whole bunch, because even saying this, I re-confuse myself. We eating good. We eating real good with these games. But interweb, that's all I have for you today. If you did like this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all things Final Fantasy and pretty much all things RPGs, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I make geekly content here on the channel all the time. And as always, in the web, remember to eat, sleep, geek, repeat. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace. Longest time, I wasn't being legit or for real with myself either, because that was a part of me. And even though I was doing it in secret. And then it just hit me. And that's when it hit me. And that's when I became a geek. Finally, the sleeper has awakened. I am the prince of all geeks once again.